We are ready to resume open session at 7:10. Flag salute. Andrea, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust?
Here.
Trustee Rushain?
Here.
Trustee Levy?
Here.
Trustee Gould?
Here.
Trustee Whiteman?
Here.
Thank you.
The board met in closed session on 4 items. Item 4A, it was voted and approved to accept the expulsion on case number 2014-02-03. That was a unanimous vote by the board. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, no action was taken. Public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint. The board voted in closed session to accept the resignation of the facilities manager effective June 30th, 2014. Item D, public employee performance evaluation, no action was taken. The board will resume back to closed session afterwards for continuing discussion. All right, we need approval of the minutes for February 12th.
I move we approve the minutes for February 12th.
Second.
Any changes? No changes? Roll call,
Trustee
please.
Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Whiteman?
Yes.
Sorry. Trustee James?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Good, keep us on our toes.
That was a listening task. Okay, we need an approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
Could I pull 8D?
Okay, we'll pull 8D and go after the consent. Okay. What's that, G?
D as in David.
D as in David. Anything else? Okay, I need a second.
So we're moving to approve the
Agenda.
agenda and the consent agenda with the exception of item 8D.
Yes, and that will be
Okay,
removed and placed in the next order of business, should be passed.
Second.
Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushain?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Whiteman?
All right, 8D, personnel changes. Let's take a look at what
So
the...
the all right that you just said before you said that was your yes?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm already thinking... Okay,
Bring it on.
item 8D. So, should we say what this is so the public knows what the discussion is? Ray, could you just give us a synopsis of...
So, at each board meeting, we update the board on any personnel changes that has occurred in our school district. And we make recommendation to the board for those personnel items, including administrative management, certificated staff, and classified staff.
Eric, since this was your item?
Yes, I just wanted to pull because I know I'm sure we'll do something later in the year, and I'm sure the associations will do something for the retirements, but I wanted to call out Naomi Azumazaki and Carol Stoddard, who are retiring at the end of the year for the years of service. Carol's been here for 16 years, and Naomi's been here for longer, and she wouldn't appreciate it if I say how long, but maybe as long as anybody here, actually. Close. Yeah, so I met Naomi when she was doing her student teaching for Bev Urquhart at Ortega, so I had a lot more hair back then. So I know I'm sure we'll do the resolutions of appreciations later and stuff, but in accepting this, I didn't want to just roll by under consent. They've given their careers here, and I just wanted to call them out and thank them for their service.
Okay. Any other concerns? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushain?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Whiteman?
Yes. Okay, we're to the communications section. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA? CSEA? People wishing to address the board? Correspondence? Okay. Board Superintendent Communications. Somebody,
Can I start?
go ahead, Richard.
Past couple weeks, I went to the IDL Ability Awareness Day. I did the work study with all of us. I stopped in for a little while at Cabrillo to watch the jump rope for heart, and I attended the articulation meeting.
I attended a City Council Climate Action Plan meeting, their study session, and just the only piece to connect is that part of their Climate Action Plan is the Safe Routes to School program, so it does have a connection to the grant and to what we do. Also, I attended the collaborative, Tina also attended that. Couple of things of note. Earth Day celebration will be April 26th down at Lindemar. Pass the flyer along, or the draft flyer. Be nice for people to go. It's a huge effort. I know all of our schools are participating, but I just share that. And then there are a couple things, out of the articulation meeting that Richard and I went to that I would like to just share briefly. We're really having a great turnout. We have 2 members of City Council, the City Manager, 2 members of Jeff High School and the Superintendent, 2 members now of the North Coast County Water District, and their General Manager. So it's the 4 bodies of elected officials from the community talking about, areas of mutual interest and stuff. So the 2 things that were of mutual interest were, one, the concern about the flooding at Ortega and the work we're doing with the city to mitigate that. And I guess the drought has saved us from any particular problem. But the superintendent and the city manager are meeting to work that out. The other thing is on budget documentation. One of the conversations we've had is transparency in budgets among all of the school districts, the water district, and the city. And our new city manager developed a different concept of budgeting, documentation from her job when she worked in Walnut Creek, and she's trying to bring that to Pacifica. And I'll pass along, it's a completely, it's not a binder with hundreds of pages of numbers, but it's actually a document that is understandable, it highlights what the city's doing with the funding, and I'll just pass it along. It's something that hopefully she's going to be able to bring here. And the conversations we had about trying to use common language among the organizations so the community can see how their tax dollars are being spent and not having to try and understand how Byzantine the budgets are. Kalima was talking about if we could get the school districts at least to talk in the same terms, then when you went from elementary district to high school, you wouldn't have to learn and understand a whole new budget, that at least the language would be the same. So I think it's important. We talked about sometimes the only time that we go to the community about the budget is when we want a parcel tax, and that's okay, but that we should be doing it all the time, and the community should see how we spend their tax dollars. So that was exciting stuff. Then the last thing, quick fast, is I sent it along to you. I got it this afternoon. I've been going to the Emergency Response Task Force meetings from San Mateo County, and they've completed their first draft or final draft, and now the report is out for administrators, for staff, and for community on what the big 5 issues are in response, and you got all of that sent to you today. I will be attending the meeting in April where it's finalized, and eventually there'll be a whole protocol, but these have been disseminated for the staff and to start training on and start learning so that everybody in the county is using the same language in emergency situations and responding the same way. So it's really been a great outcome of this came out of the conference that Congresswoman Spear had of Beyond Newtown last year. So I wanted to share that with you all.
Thanks. In addition to the work study, I'm continuing to teach junior achievement up at Sunset Ridge in Debbie Little's class, which I love doing every year. And then I also attended a training session for being a community, what do they call them?
Evaluator at
Community
Oceana.
evaluator for the Oceana senior projects. And I just wanted to sort of put in a word for that because it was very, very impressive, not just what the students do, but the high standards to which the teachers are holding them. And that, I think, was what the training was really about, was getting all of the community evaluators on the same page about exactly what those high standards were. And what we found was that after watching the sample presentation, we would go around the room and a lot of the community members would say, I thought that was great, that was a 3 out of 4, and the teachers were like, well, like seeing here on our rubric, did they talk about this at all? Did they mention that? I think that's really a 0, so so I thought, it was really worth sharing, like the high standards of the high school district.
Oh, okay, my list is way too long with some of the highlights, I'm going to say. The Strategic Planning Committee meeting at IBL, attended that with Joan and Richard, and getting some input from community there on our LCAP was great. That's obviously what we need is the community input, and so that happened at that meeting, so that was really good. Did some school events, so I'll say probably the most fun school event was the pancake breakfast at Sunset Ridge on Saturday, and where I got into a bidding war for student principal of the day. So Debbie Little decided that all 3 of us, our kids would be principal for a day. So Ellie's got to manage 3 kids for student principal, but she's looking forward to having Lena be principal for a day. So yeah, that's good. And I went to an LCFF presentation by CSBA. Got some pretty good information on some ideas for our LCAP about what was one pretty good idea here that I hadn't heard before. There's the county superintendent, state superintendent, and the CCEE, this being the California Collaborative of Educational Excellence, are going to end up being the LCAP police.
Yeah.
And so there's something that's going to be in our radar as we put the LCAP together, and just some caveats that they gave for the LCAP. If you're going to set your goals too high and you start lowering them every year because you're not going to make them, then the LCAP police are going to come down on you. So we need to think about having reasonable goals and measurable goals in our LCAP. And then they gave a rubric. They give us a rubric for your which rubric is this? Is this for the community input? Oh, the strength of our planning efforts for the LCAP. So it looked kind of good, that we might want to think about as we go to analyze our LCAP. So I don't know. Maybe,
Can we get copies of that?
Yeah. We'll send that up and down, and maybe Sandy can get copies of that.
Would that be okay, Sandy, if you can make copies for the board?
Okay. And then I saw Ocean Shore School and Cabrillo get STEM awards the other night, so that was wonderful for those groups of teachers, and felt very honored to be there, honoring our staff here and what they're doing. And then Wendy and Tina too went to the Jefferson Union High School District board work study on their math pathways to kind of see what the discussion looks like. And it was an interesting discussion and presentation, and lots of conversation about what the thinking is for the math pathways, and they will be, I guess, voting on changing their math pathways next week at next week's board meeting. But so more shall be revealed by next week. And yeah, those were my highlights.
Okay. So I attended the strategic planning work study and the work study with, so the strategic planning meeting and then the work study with the board. I also did go to the Sunset Ridge Pancake Breakfast. Boy, those pancakes are really good.
They are.
And just, I know we throw out a lot of letters up here, but the LCAP and the LCFF is essentially, the state is kind of chucking the old process of funding schools and bringing in a whole new process around that. And so the one is a plan, and the other one is kind of simplifying the funding model, so it's not as complicated for those of you who've been around. That it's a 3-week training course, and you might even just tip break. That is all kind of going away. And the idea is that by 2020, that the funding will be equalized, so that some districts aren't getting more than other districts. And that's been a long time coming.
Close, yeah.
And so for us, that's a good thing, because we've been so funded. We were at one point the bottom 11th percentile in the state in terms of per pupil funding. So we, as a district, will benefit from that. So as we kind of transition and in preparation for that, we have an upcoming work study where we'll see many of the same wonderful people with the Pacific Education Foundation and the PTOs to really talk about how we take all of our funding sources and maximize them so that we can provide a high quality education. That should be a good meeting. Wendy?
Okay, so just to highlight from our joint articulation meeting, because I'm not sure, Eric, if you touched upon it, but the Water District is part of our articulation meeting now, and one of the things that we did discuss was the water conservation to do.
No, I didn't. Thank you.
So we're not on rationing right now, but I think that it is still wise for us to make sure that we monitor the water usage. I think it was shared at our meeting that Pacifica is one of the lowest water users, so we obviously are doing some great things, and that they do have nozzles you can put on your hoses and things like that, if you contact the Water District, which we will be as Pacifica School District, so that we can add those to our hoses, etc. So it's always nice to be proactive and make sure that we are good consumers. Another group that was highlighted at the STEM Awards for the San Mateo County was the City of Pacifica After School Program, which is really a joint effort with Pacifica School District and other districts. I want to say San Carlos is one of them, and Cabrillo is the other, along with Pacifica School District. And again, we thank the foundation, PEF, the Pacific Education Foundation, who really started us, and we use those robotics kits in order for our students to be able to participate. And so Steve has been really helpful in supporting the after-school robotics program that is a grant awarded through San Mateo County. And I think that's about it as far as highlights are concerned. With everybody else, I too will be going to Oceana. It's a fun experience to listen to the exhibits that these students have worked very hard. I think they work their whole time throughout the 4 years they're there. So this is their culminating activity. So it's a great experience. Thank you.
All right. We have 2 presentations tonight. The first one is the Pacifica Education Foundation.
Andrew Michael is here to make a presentation on behalf.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here tonight. I get the fun part of giving away the money. So I have a check for the district for the first half of this year's 21st Century Education and Music programs from the Pacifica Education Foundation for just under $116,000. And I also want to take the opportunity to recognize, Steve Kiesel as, a guy who made the vision of 21st Century Education a reality as the coach and mentor at the district level, but also the teachers and the leadership at the school sites and the staff for also, really implementing these programs, for the board and the leadership at the district office for supporting and implementing it as well. I mean, it's absolutely a team effort, and we look forward, we're excited about the next few months to work with the PTOs and the district and take the Education Foundation to the next level. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? I would like to just say something about the Education Foundation because it started in 2008 and it was kind of an outgrowth of our first parcel tax. And that year was kind of special because it was a year of vision. People really came together as a community, the PTOs and the community, to actually save our schools. And so it was through vision and leadership and most of all collaboration. And I think that the foundation and the PTOs with the district and the community have really placed us in a place that we didn't think we could ever be at some point in this district. And the fact that we're growing together and we've got a meeting coming up, I think speaks volumes to what Pacifica has to say about education in our community. So thank you for all the hard work that the Education Foundation does to make that happen. And the check's nice too. Okay. The next thing we have is the board curriculum display.
So we have Mark Lorenzen, principal of Ortega School, who will be making the presentation to the board on our wonderful curriculum displays. Again, at the request of the board, we have shifted from content displays to really the 5 C's of 21st century skills, and today's boards represent citizenship.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you, board, for having me here to give this wonderful presentation. I'm just going to go around the room and tell you a little bit about each one of these wonderful displays, and they wrote something for me, so I don't have to ad-lib, so that's good. The first board is IBL, where they teach students about citizenship in many ways. Through their respect for all, which is represented there, students learn about classroom and school-wide behavior expectations. They have kickoff assemblies at the beginning of the year and follow up with mini guidance presentations in the classroom throughout the year. They also have Citizens of the Month program, which celebrates students who are exhibiting the 5 character traits of respect, responsibility, honesty, compassion, and integrity. Students are also recognized with a certificate, and their picture is put in the bulletin board in the office. Additional programs that help to promote good citizenship include peer helpers, regular beach and campus cleanups, interactive club, and the Be the Change Week. So those are all represented there. Our next board is Lindemar Education Center, and students there practice being good students on a daily basis. A large part of their learning process as preschool is around socialization. Children are learning to cooperate and share with peers, to take part in group activities, and to begin to take responsibility for their own actions. Other examples of citizenship that could be seen at LeMec include learning about members of our community in our daily lives, practicing throwaway trash, and refining waiting skills, interesting, and learning, well, they all are 4 years old, so, and learning a variety of ways to care for the world they live in. So that was LeMec. Our next bulletin board is Valleymar. At Valleymar, they're always looking for positive ways to show citizenship, and each other at school and in our community. They have Citizen of the Month programs, which is demonstrated there, which allow students to recognize each other for acts of kindness. Their 8th grade peer helpers give their recess time to play games and help solve conflicts with primary students at recess. Peer helpers also plan and present Respect for All assemblies to upper grade students. Students discuss ways to be more respectful and how to be better citizens in the community. They had their first Ability Awareness Day this year, which is demonstrated there with some pictures. Students developed awareness around challenges with speech, vision, learning, communication, and movement through several activities. Becoming aware of each other's experience and the effect they have on And with that, they hope to create an inclusive, positive community. Valleymar believes in giving back to the community. That is why we pledge to help American Heart Association every year. More than 400 kindergartners through 8th graders participated in Jump Rope for Heart on Valentine's Day. Students were literally jumping into their heart-healthy life and at the same time become passionate about helping other local children with sick hearts. We are proud to be one of the top fundraising schools in the state for this event. I like that, having it on Valentine's Day. They get a lot of energy from chocolate, then they can go and jump it off. One of our 4 days where we can have celebrations like that. The next board, a little over the top, actually, it's beautiful. I'm going to have to really step up my game next time, I can tell you, between these next two. Sunset Ridge. Citizenship begins at Sunset Ridge when the students enter transitional kindergarten. It begins by making sure that students have a safe, comfortable place where they are valued as individuals and learn that they are part of a bigger community and that their choices impact the community. Citizenship continues to be developed through the years by lessons and activities. We have 3 school-wide rules: be respectful, be responsible, and be ready. Students that display one or more of these characteristics can be rewarded with random acts of kindness. Our PTO reinforces those traits by randomly selecting 20 students who have received awards and give them a pencil. And represented on the board is another activity they do, the Book of the Month Club Assembly. And can you tell what the book was, this one? Are You a Bucket Filler? The book talks about how our actions impact others and that by doing nice things from one another, we can take care of ourselves. We do that book at our school too, and kids talk about it weeks and months later. I don't know, it really has a high impact, that book. We also have Family Day. I think I got that book from Ellie too, by the way. We also have Family Day activities once a month. Family Day is where one child from each grade is part of a family and gets to play games and do other activities, and the 5th graders get to lead and teach the others' activities. They have student council reps that meet on a monthly basis to plan community activities that make school a great place to be. This year they raised money for the Philippines. They organized Spirit Week, Formal Friday, and collected coats for nonprofit One Warm Coat and did school-wide cleanup activities. 3rd graders each made and that's represented there, virtue quilts. After studying the International Red Cross and ordinary kids improving their communities, students learned about public virtue and the roles of citizens in civic life. They made a quilt that shows their commitment to the community. Our goal is to show each child that in addition to being individuals, they are part of a bigger community and that their actions impact the world. Cabrillo School practices and models good citizenship through ensuring that students are involved in their own learning. Students have ample opportunities to join different communities and levels of involvement that include class-wide projects such as, represented here, Kindness Starts With Me project with 3rd graders, digital citizenship in several classes, and online learning opportunities such as We Teach Science in the upper grades, to participation in smaller groups such as band and leadership. Through these varied ways, they learn about being good citizens in our school, local, state, and global community. And I also want to point out their put-downs there. You have to read those. They have put-downs and put-ups. They're quite funny. That's the little tail on the heart and the arms. It's very, very sweet. Ocean Shore. Ocean Shore students learn about citizenship in every aspect of our program. The students are expected to be model citizens at school and in the community. The students learn at a young age by watching and interacting with older students who are held in high regard and high standard of responsibility and respect. In addition, children are taught how to interact with the community at large through a variety of field trip experiences. Many times, the students are complimented on their good behavior. Displayed on the wall are 2 examples of teaching citizenship at Ocean Shore. The first are pictures from a 1st grade theme day. Children wrote and drew pictures on what peace means. As depicted, some of the pictures say, peace is loving, peace is having a home and clothing, peace is giving shoes to people who need them, peace is having friends, peace is helping, all modeling foundations of citizenship. The second display is an example of students working with Shelley Denny's County Special Education class. All these 4th and 5th grade students coaches earn their wheelchair licenses in order to be able to help in Shelley's classroom, pushing students around at recess and engaging with Shelley's special needs students during assemblies and other school activities. The 4th and 5th grade students develop bonds with the special needs students as they get to know them and one another during these 2 years. All of these pictures only depict one area of how special needs students are involved in our program. There are many, many examples at Ocean Shore. We believe in teaching our students how to respect one another's similarities and differences, and we are proud that kids graduating from our school have a profound understanding and appreciation of others. And last but not least, Ortega. At Ortega, we also work hard at developing community. All of our parents, teachers, and students are citizens of Ottertown. Students share their talents in many ways, organizing fundraisers, helping special day students, getting awards for Student of the Month, and learning about ways to improve their world. Students are taught to work successfully in groups and to watch out for each other and stand up when someone needs their help. Tonight, we have a few examples of citizenship at Ortega. One of them is a project with Mr. Hartman's class. It was Oil 3000. It was organized through PEF funds, and Steve Kiesel came. Mr. Hartman's third grade classes used everyday items to create a machine that would suck up oily water. The devices includes filters and the ability to float on the ocean. The students had to work together to build a device that would help clean the ocean. Another example is two citizens of Ortega making a big difference. These two wonderful students decided on their own to collect food for the Pacifica Resource Center. As you can see by the letter we received from the center, the students' food drive helped needy families in Pacifica. The letter is from a lady that got some of the returns from the kids, got to use them in her house, and she was very thankful. Working in SDC classes. Fourth grade students are buddies to our SDC students. They go in during their time at lunch and breaks to have fun with their friends. What wonderful citizens they are. And last is Students of the Month demonstrate growth mindsets. It's a training that we had here at the district office, and I brought it back to the staff, and then our focus for that month was growth mindsets with the kids. Every month, students who are chosen to demonstrate a special quality. For February, these wonderful students were chosen because they faced learning challenges, but retained their can-do spirit, and the result were successful students at Ortega. And it was a great theme to use because we got to acknowledge students we normally wouldn't be able to acknowledge because some students really try hard and are not as successful as others, so we really got to acknowledge them, so it was great. And I just want to say, I think that Joan already said something, but I just really want to thank the PTO representatives here and the PEF Foundation, because I was in this district in times of plenty, and the last 6 years were certainly not that, and we could have not kept our program going and improved it without the help of the PTO and PEF. And I know at my school at Ortega, they increased their budget 3 times to be able to maintain our program and add things to it. So I really thank you, and hopefully the funding's easing up a bit. You won't have to work as hard. I don't know. I can always find ways to spend money, though, can't I? So I don't know if you have any questions. That's it.
Sort of a perfect lead into our next item, because we had our little citizens and now we have our parents who care about our community. The next item is a resolution of appreciation for our parent-teacher organizations.
And so, again, and I think Mark said it very well, that we could not do the work we do and have the experiences that we have without the support of our PTOs. And so we really wanted to take this opportunity, the board, in presenting a resolution of appreciation for all of the work that our parents do every day as they volunteer in those classrooms and on weekends and at night in raising the funds to really support those extra programs that we just could not do. So again, we will be having that March meeting, hopefully to have some conversations, discussions around how we can start realigning our resources now that we do have some additional funds through local control funding formula. Although, again, we're not getting it all right now. It's a target, so we're not out of the woods, and we keep wanting to monitor how this new funding source is. We feel that it's time that we can start having that conversation and doing some realignment, because you have all worked so very hard. So, with that, Joan, did you want to read just one of them?
Yes, we have a resolution for each school. I will read the first one, and we'll just substitute wonderful PTO for the school name. So, wonderful PTO, resolved by the Board of Trustees of Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas the wonderful PTOs have been treasured and valuable organizations at each site, always recognizing that it's all about the children. And whereas the members of each wonderful PTO has brought a wealth of experience, energy, and excitement to the benefit of each school site by contributing their time and efforts to provide a warm, welcoming, and professionally rewarding atmosphere for teachers and staff at the school. And whereas the membership have given liberally of their volunteer time and effort, always putting in a good deal of his or her own personality into every volunteer effort. And where each member has worked tirelessly when asked to raise monies to provide the extras, and the necessaries, expended for each school, and oftentimes raising monies to provide for the basic needs of the schools. And whereas the members of the wonderful PTOs have exhibited incredible and tireless effort in working together with their fellow PTO members and other PTOs district-wide in their work to pass the parcel tax. And whereas each PTO has worked so very well together as a group, recognizing their similarities and differences while organizing and ultimately honoring each other at the Elna Flynn Awards dinner. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Pacifica School District recognizes each wonderful PTO for their many contributions to the students and families of the district. Further be it resolved that the board hereby extends its heartfelt appreciation to each school PTO on behalf of the community, the staff, and most importantly, the students of our district.
Would you like a motion, or do you want to discuss first?
Well, how about if we have a motion to see if anybody wants to approve this?
I just want to say one quick thing, which
Okay.
is like I wanted to thank Kian, Eli, and Theo for letting the PTO borrow your dad so that he can make the school better for all of the kids. And I want to thank all of the rest of you. I want to thank your kids as well for letting us borrow you for the PEF board as well, because I understand how much time that takes and what you're doing for everybody at your schools.
So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolutions for all the schools' PTOs.
Okay.
I'll
Second.
Okay, does anybody else want more comment?
I just wanted one more comment. Also, not just your kids, but your spouses. And I just to point out, I think there's not any group more supportive of the PTOs than the board, because this board and every other board I've served on is made up of PTO graduates. I mean, that was how we got hooked into being part of the district, was through our kids' PTO. So this too can be where you wind up.
Don't try and scare them.
But no, to second that, having served on a PTO board for 8 years, I know how hard you work. I know how much time you put in and time that you take away from your personal life as well as your families for one more meeting, one more event, one more day in the classroom, and we really could not have all the things that we have without all of the work that's gone in through the PTOs.
So, it's always been a fact that with PTOs and many other organizations like this, that there's just a few of the people that do all of the work. So, we are certainly honoring those few people that do all that work, plus the rest of the organization that supports that. And without our PTOs, the schools would be at such a financial loss and a support loss that they would they really don't function well without that parent support. And so it is a community that brings our schools, that makes our schools great, and the PTO community is that community that is really an integral part of making our schools great. So we appreciate all of the work that you do.
Thank you. I know people want to get home to spend just an easy bit of time with their family, so can we call for a roll call, please?
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're going to have pictures? Is that what we're doing, Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, so if representatives from the schools could come, and we will... Come on up. Yes,
Yeah, all of you just come up and gather.
We all come out.
Okay, now we want everyone. The board, the superintendent. The board. PTOs.
We'll go in the back.
We need. There's two. One more.
Take care, Stacy. Thank you, guys. Sure do not have a clear room. It doesn't take much.
We don't have to clear a room.
I think you would leave if you could.
Eric, don't try and scare them away.
They think every meeting ends at 8.
Alrighty. Okay.
They're well and truly booked.
For those of us who are still left, still outstanding,
You guys just have a little something for you guys, your buckets. These are the
Oh.
I'm sorry, wait, they have names. I did, I gave them.
Yeah, they do. She gave them mine. This is what everybody at my school. Maybe Lena will do a little retraining when she's
Oh, I already asked her for a day off.
Oh, my bucket is ready now.
Thank you so much.
thank you. Look at us goose. What a goodie. Isn't that sweet?
A Band-Aid and
Oh, that,
You know, I.
you want me to read it out loud? So people can hear? Okay. All right.
I had help writing it.
This is very cute.
Oh. Don't read the last one, that would.
I like the last.
I know.
Item is Senate Bill 751, voting of board members.
So Senate Bill 751 went into effect on January 1st, 2014, and it really amends the Brown Act, and it's in relationship to the publicly reporting out of board action. And it was read and interpreted by us that it was intended for every board member, for every action item, to have to vote individually. However, in review by legal counsel, the understanding is that if it were a 5-0 vote, that the process we had previously of the raising of hands would be fine. Where you may want to do a call out is if it's not a unanimous vote or an abstention from voting for whatever reason, then we would do a roll call. So again, it's the pleasure of the board to have discussion and to determine which method they would like to take. Either what we are currently doing now, which is an individual vote, or go back to what we used to do and call out only.
I read through the thing, I thought after reading it that the hand was fine. If we take roll call at the beginning and it shows that we're all here, and Sandy obviously reads out past 5-0, so you have an opportunity to speak up if that was not your intention. And I like the idea of having a roll call when there is a no or an abstention. Otherwise, I think that just the hands would kind of expedite things a little bit.
I would agree.
Okay, that's fine. And I just wanted to put it out there
Now,
because...
do we need a motion and then a vote? And if so, how would we vote?
I think we'd have to have a roll call.
We would have to have a roll call to decide to use our hands.
Here's what I would suggest. Whatever's decided, we just do the roll call for this meeting so that we're consistent within a meeting, and we
Okay.
start the new process at the next time we have to take action? Does that sound like a fair process? Okay, so it sounds like the pleasure of the board is to go back to raising our hands.
With the caveat that if it's not unanimous, then we do a roll call so that it can be clear who voted in
Which
what
way and who is
Back into a
abstaining.
motion?
Yes. Okay, do you want me to put the recommendation out there and?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so, the board would like to have the voting changed so that we vote by hand, simultaneously raise our hands to support the vote or deny the vote, whichever the case may be. In the case where there is abstentions or it's not a unanimous vote, we will do a roll call.
So moved.
Second.
No, you.
Oh, please.
Okay, a roll call, please.
Yes.
Trustee Rashames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Wyden?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so can we just make sure that's really clear in the minutes in case we have to go back at some point or some other board wants to know what they're supposed to do. We're up into 6th grade math textbook adoption. This is an action item. So, can I have a report, please?
That's me.
Oh,
Hi. So, as we've spoken about before, the State Board of Ed did release a list of materials that are deemed by the State Board of Ed to be Common Core aligned. We had teachers, with the help of our math coach, go through the available curriculum samples with a rubric around looking for alignment and the other features that our teachers would like to see. The 7th and 8th grade teachers expressed a desire to continue with our current adoption, which is CPM, which stands for, I always forget this, and I know I put it in. Thank you. College Preparatory Math. And our K through 5 teachers decided that they didn't see anything that they thought worthy of adopting at this time. But our 6th grade teachers saw a need for a realignment. They currently are using the same line of curriculum as our K-5 teachers, and then we switch the publisher at grade 7. We would like to propose that it would be a smoother transition for our kids, and it would be better for our students to have that transition, if there is to be one, to happen at 6th grade instead of 7th. The 6th grade teachers had a chance to review the CPM materials for 6th grade and found them to be aligned with the Common Core, aligned with the SVMI work that we've been doing, and would like to adopt those for the coming school year for 14-15.
any questions?
I'm looking something up.
Okay, so I mean, I actually teach, I'm teaching some CPM and some more what traditional math. Is there a need for some additional supplemental materials for CPM?
So,
And the
I
reason,
think that we will be looking at that as we do our work with SVMI. And what the teacher's initial response was that the types of materials that they might need to supplement would be more around practice of the basic multiplication tables and dealing with fractions and the rote practice.
Right.
And they said that that stuff's easy to find. It's easy to find online, there's free materials, there's workbooks we can purchase, things like that, but the in-depth problems that take a long period of time to solve, that are rigorous and that are interesting to students are the parts that are hard to find, and that's what CPM provides.
yeah, and that would be my comment, that CPM is great conceptually, and it does really lead the kids to that aha moment, but they also need that practice, right?
And the teachers, yeah, they
Yeah,
acknowledged
okay.
that, but they also said that they felt like that type of
Okay.
material was a lot easier to find
Right.
outside of a full adoption.
Okay, so just as long as we're providing support or time or whatever it is they need to pull that additional materials together.
Okay, so I don't know why I don't understand this, but I thought we only had course 1 and 2 and algebra, the CPM. What are the 8th graders using? Are they using the course?
They're using the bridge materials right now, but we would purchase the 8th grade Common
The course
Core.
3.
The course 3.
Okay,
So we would still be purchasing new materials for 7th and 8th with the Common Core money, as our plan, the Common Core plan stated. So we would be purchasing new materials 6th through 8th, but it's only a new adoption in 6th grade.
Got it.
Thank you for letting me clarify that.
You ready for a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion to approve the adoption of CPM for 6th grade.
I move that we adopt CPM for 6th grade.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould? Yes. Trustee Whiting?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to enrollment and staffing for 14-15. It's an update, information discussion.
Okay, so we currently are enrolled at 2,248. And we are projected to be enrolled for 2014-15 at and or around 3,186. This is an anticipated decline of approximately 62 students. This is a result of our current 8th grade class graduating and a projected smaller TK-K enrollment for the upcoming year. We also have a very small 7th grade class that's been coming up through the ranks. So as they graduate out of the district, then our enrollment will balance out at that point, around 3,200. As far as the staffing portion of this agenda item, we anticipate a decrease of FTE, which stands for full-time equivalent, of certificated staff from our current FTE being at 124.53 to 121.43. All other special ed and certificated support staff should remain the same of what we have this year. Questions or comments?
Just a couple. How reliable have our projections been over time?
So, very reliable. A historic trend of them being reliable. And I ask Beverly DeSpiva and Student Services to give me a projected enrollment on a monthly basis, just so I can monitor as we approach that 14-15 school year. We're not wavering too much at all. And then that ensures where our staffing will hold for the year.
And then, obviously with the decline, we're not going to have any capacity issues at sites. Is that a safe assumption?
Very safe assumption.
And then the last question is probably more for Josie, and that's, what's the financial impact of the decline?
So with the new local control funding formula, they still take into account that you get to use your current ADA, or if you're declining the prior year's ADA, so we're still be able to count this year's attendance for next year. And that's how we've built our multi-year projections at this time.
But, so 15, we would take the hit in 15-16.
It looks like it's going to kind of steady. There was a large graduating class for 14-15 is the decline. In 15-16, it's more around 3,200, so it's not a sharp decline in 15-16.
Great, thank you.
Okay, that was just information discussion.
Information.
All right, the next item is the 14-15 6th grade lottery review.
Some more information. We have, and as you know, in Pacifica School District, we have 2 paths of educational design, and that's the K-8 path and then the K-5 path plus middle school. So students in our K-5s are automatically enrolled in our 6 through 8 middle school. We're a district of choice, so therefore our incoming 6th graders, they have options, which is very nice. The lottery process allows for 6th graders to request for a different option if they're in one path and they want to choose to go to another. When there are more requests to transfer to a site and spaces available, then the lottery process is held for spaces. This year, 60 transfer requests were received for our 6th grade lottery process. The lottery was held on February 14th, and then the results were posted. Those are the lottery results there on the screen. Any questions, comments?
Okay. Moving on, since that was an information item, moving on to the next item, which is the 13-14 classified management salary schedule.
And this is a discussion/action item. So we have, the board approved the Lindemar Educational Center Director position recently in the past, and we wanted to update our classified management salary schedule so that this new position could be reflected on the classified management salary schedule. It's request recommended that the board approve this revision to the 2013-14 classified management salary schedule. You can see on the salary schedule that we have retained the behavioral program supervisor position on that schedule. Currently, the person that is our new LMEC director has the capacity to be our behavior program supervisor, but we wanted to keep that on the salary schedule in case that person is no longer in the position.
So we have 3 positions listed, but 2 people filling them.
Correct.
Thank you for leaving that on.
Thank you.
Any questions? Sure.
I think we have a card.
Oh, do we have a card? I don't have a card.
Not on this item. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry.
All right, you want to pass the card up, that, so we know?
Yep.
All right, so this is an action item. I get a motion to approve the classified management salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yeah.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so the next item is classified layoffs as a result of lack of work. Since we have an item here, why don't we staff report, and we'll hear from the person who'd like to speak, and then we'll have board discussion.
Okay, so this is an action item. This is the annual time of year where we need to address any classified layoffs as a result of lack of work and/or lack of funds. So it's recommended that the board approve resolution number 2014-03-12-G in a reduction of these classified positions that are posted on the screen.
Sue?
This is broken.
Hi, I'm Sue Beckmeyer. And I just wanted to say, in light of comments made earlier at this meeting about alignment of expenditures in light of the LCFF and the new funding formulas that we're looking at, I don't know because I haven't heard their background on this, but I'm going to take a wild guess that this is based on funding source more than lack of work, because I have a hard time imagining we don't need crossing guard at Sunset Ridge. So I don't know, and it's my bad for not finding out before this meeting what the real impetus behind this is, but I'm just guessing it's to do with funding source, and perhaps the funding source is an unstable one, i.e. a PTO-based funding source. And so my main message is it would be great to not have to have this list next year. Because it's usually the case, I realize not always, that positions like this end up getting funded anyway. And putting employees through the horror of getting that pink slip, even if you know you're probably going to get rehired, especially in a year when we're hearing good news. We got a raise. It's on our salary schedule. LCFF is bringing more money. We're getting equalized funding, and then these people get that pink slip and have that talk. And I just want to underscore what was said earlier about looking at realigning our funding sources and our positions so that we can avoid this kind of thing in the future. I understand lack of work, but I just question lack of work in some of these instances. Thanks.
Can you speak to that for a minute? I mean, it is, I know that are these cases of PTO?
No, sorry, something was flying.
Oh, okay. Are these cases of PTO funded positions that are on our payroll but are being funded by PTOs that the PTO is essentially no longer going to fund them, and therefore this is occurring?
It could be PTO, could also be site funds that are not necessarily ensured that they're going to be there for the upcoming year. The first position is due to lack of work. It's IEP driven, and so when we project for the upcoming year and we look at the IEP services, that's what's driving the behavior therapist position for a reduction of time. But the other positions could be, are a funding situation and could be either PTO or site funding.
Okay.
So this is an action item? We get a motion to approve?
I move that we approve Resolution 2014-0312G.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item, I'm not sure if I missed anybody, is the release of temporary certificated employees. The staff report?
Okay, so also as an annual item, we are at a point with looking at the release of temporary certificated employees with this resolution number 2014-03-12-H. And I would like the board to know that with the resolution that was given to the board and is posted, I would like to make change to some of the language. So if we look at paragraph 1, and I'm putting my little marker there, where it says not to re-elect, we would like that to be changed to release. Paragraph 2, where it says not to re-elect, notice my little markers over it, we would like to change that to release. And the final paragraph, where it says shall not be re-elected, we would like to change that to be released.
Okay, so the last piece there is resolved that hereby determines that the following certificated temporary employees shall be released, and then we're just striking.
Striking, shall not be re-elected, thank you.
Shall
And
not
then-
be, so we have to strike for the succeeding school year. And then we just leave pursuant to ed code?
Yes. And then with the list of certificated staff that's presented to you, with Akela Fresquez, it is recommended now that we will not be receiving a release letter for this employee because of staffing changes at the school she is currently employed at. So we would like to remove her name from that list. And then I'll provide a revised resolution.
Any questions? Anybody? Okay, I'm just going to read it so that we're all clear, because this is pretty serious when we're talking about personnel things, so here we go. This is as the notes that I have taken, and correct me if this is not what we're voting on. Whereas Education Code 44954B provides that the governing board of the school district may release temporary certificated employees who have served more than 75% of the school year by giving them notice before the end of the school year of the district's decision to release them for the next succeeding year. And whereas the governing board of Pacifica School District has received and considered the recommendation of the district superintendent to release certain temporary certificated employees under Ed Code Section 44954B for the 2014-15 school year, now therefore be it resolved that the governing board hereby determines that the following certificated temporary employees shall be released pursuant to Ed Code Section 44954B. All the names stay on the list with the exception that Akela Fresquez will be removed.
After you say shall be released. we
On the
want
last
to-
paragraph.
On the last paragraph, second to the last sentence, shall be released for the next succeeding school year.
Okay, so we are going to leave that in. Okay, I will reread that. So the last paragraph is, now therefore be it resolved that the governing board hereby determines that the following certificated temporary employees shall be released for the next succeeding school year pursuant to the Ed Code.
Thank you.
Okay, and the list is the same except for Akela Fresquez being removed.
Correct.
Okay, that is what we were voting on, so that we're clear. All right, are we ready for a vote? Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second. Okay, roll call?
Trustee Faust? Trustee Boucher?
Sure.
As much as I understand the legalities behind doing this, I agree with Sue that this is, I hate having to do this every year, giving people pink slips over and over again. It's a very discouraging way for people to enter a job field. It's a little wonder why people oftentimes choose not to go into teaching or work in schools.
I know, it's not pretty, and the Ed Code sometimes forces some of these issues, although we do have choice. I'm waiting for mine. Okay. All right,
Sorry.
so we are voting on the resolution as it was read into the record. Okay, and we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Roll call.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushanes?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on to the next action item, which is a public disclosure of collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, Assembly Bill 1200 is the law that governs the fiscal health of school districts, and one of the requirements is that the governing board make public any of the collective bargaining agreements and compensation for employees. And so the county has oversight over our budget and our collective bargaining. So each time we reach agreement with our labor partners, we need to submit this document to the County Office of Education. The superintendent and the CBO and the board president must sign a certification that the district can afford the compensation agreements that they reached for the current year and for 2 years, in the multi-year, which is the second interim report coming up next. And so what this document is there's a summary page for each bargaining unit summarizing the details of the agreement and the salary and benefit structures. And then on the last section is an update of our budget, taking what we had at first interim, adding the salary and benefits that we agreed upon, and then showing what our current projected budget is. And those figures are actually what we're now going to be presenting as second interim. So we've prepared these documents for the board's review and for public disclosure, and for the superintendent, myself, and the board president to certify and submit to the county.
Is this sort of new?
The form has changed.
Oh, the form's
Assembly
changed.
Bill 1200 has always been in place.
Okay.
The county sometimes changes the type of documents that they want to review.
Okay.
And this document was new last year. And prior to that, it was more like a one-page document that we used to submit to the county. And it's more, a little bit more cumbersome now, but more detailed and more transparent.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of as I remember. Okay. Any questions? Okay, we need a motion to approve.
Second?
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushanes?
Yes.
Trustee Levy? Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going on to certification of the second interim financial report. This is an action item.
So the second interim report is an update for the board and for the public of where our budget is today. So we did our adopted budget in June, and then we had our first interim report in the fall, and now the second interim report covers the period through January 31st, and it reflects the actuals, and then updated projections for the multi-year, which is a really important part of the second interim. So this report was built based on the agreements we reached with our labor partners, and so what I did and the most important thing is we have a positive certification, which means that we are going to maintain a positive balance for this year and 2 years going out based on the current projections. One of the things that is noted is that we did have a large ending fund balance at first interim, and that, if you remember, was we had one-time funds that we had been preparing for budget cuts over many years, and we're carrying about $1.2 million of unallocated. So when we reached agreements with our labor partners, part of those agreements were based on utilizing some of that ending fund balance, because we knew that the LCFF, the new funding with local control, was bringing in more funding for this year and also for next year. And you'll see in the multi-year how that works out if you've had a chance to look at the multi-year, how we've spent funds this year and those funds carry over to next year. So the reserves on the second page shows we have the revolving account. Our reserve for economic uncertainty is 3%. We talked about adding additional reserve to during the budget discussions, and then we have an unallocated amount of just over $400,000. And this is still very important because we just received our loan, because the state still doesn't pay us from May and June for our apportionments, and so we received a loan for about $2.3 million to help us carry payroll from now until June, and this reserve is also helping us to carry payroll. Now, next year, I don't think it'll be as bad because the local control funding formula is helping us with those state deferrals as well. But for this year, we still needed to have a loan, and this reserve has really helped us. So I wanted to just summarize the major changes from first interim. We did have a slight increase in the local control funding formula. It's based on what we call our unduplicated count, or underrepresented students, which is your English language learners, your free and reduced, and your foster students. That was about a $30,000 increase. We did receive Proposition 39 energy efficient funding, which was $130,000 of funding which we hadn't budgeted before. And there was a slight reduction in some of the special ed revenues for consortium students because we didn't take in as many students from other school districts. On the expenditure side, you'll see large increases for the compensation agreements that we agreed to, and we also agreed to increase the substitute pay rates, and we did have other increases. For example, legal fees was one of the increases from first interim to second interim. Then we talk about the multi-year. The multi-year is built on the local control funding formula, and based on what the governor has projected for next year with what they call gap funding, and I think we talked a lot about that at the study session. But the multi-year projection is included in here, and it shows how the expenditures roll forward into next year and also to the year forward. And in this multi-year, there is an increase for health benefits projected and projections for retirements, but we don't currently have increases for compensation built in. So as we get to the May revision and we start closing our books and building our budget for 14-15, we'll start having more accurate numbers for the projections. So I don't know if people have questions or comments.
Eric?
Just a comment. I really appreciate this, and congrats to Josie and your staff for putting it together. And to have a positive, certification is no small accomplishment, and especially under the uncertainties of the new funding formula. And I just appreciate all the hard work everybody's done, because without this, we don't get to do all the other things that we need to do.
I wanted to thank you for helping walk me through this process. I think as a new board member, I really feel like it's taken me up to this point to really actually understand these. And it's nice that the document is always the same and just the numbers change, so at least now I know where to look for things, but it has taken me a really long time to get my head around the budget, and I wanted to thank you for all the time that it's taken you to get me there.
It's not an easy format. It's a state format, so I completely understand.
Do we know when the deferrals are going to stop?
From the 14-15 budget, they're going to be reduced, and so we'll be in a much better position as far as cash flow next year.
Okay, but reduced is different than getting our money when we're supposed to. Okay.
And it could be eliminated, some of them.
Is there discussion that it will be eliminated?
We'll know in May.
Okay. All right. This is an action item, so I need a motion to approve. Did you need something, Andrea?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were done.
There was just one that I didn't quite understand of the not mets. It was number 8, the deficit spending. You explained this one to me before, but.
Okay, so this is a really good document that the state and the county required. It's called the district certification, and it goes through several criteria, and when you see that it's not met, those are the areas that the public and the board want to pay attention to. And so what you're referring to is number 8, deficit spending. And if you were to look in that large criteria and standards document, you would see that at first interim, it tells you like what your revenues and your expenditures and how much they're exceeded. At first interim, it was a much smaller number, and then when you go to second interim, the deficit spending has increased because we added the compensation agreements in. So that was about $600,000, and so at first interim, and I could get the numbers, but at first interim, I'll look it up for you so you have it. It's on the unrestricted side of the budget. When you look at the second column of first interim, our deficit was $305,000, and then when you look at column D, the projected totals, it's almost $70,000, and that's an increase in a higher deficit because we added the compensation in. And what that tells you is you're spending money that you had as reserve in the current year. So that's where the deficit comes in. Our revenues are less than our expenditures, and we kind of spent some of our local control funding formula for 14-15 by putting all those expenditures in this year. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I need a motion to approve a positive certification for our second interim.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Whiteman?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let's see where we're at here. We are at approval of the contract with School Services of California for an organizational efficiency review of Business and Human Resources Department.
Okay, this is, there is a speaker card for this one as well, so you know. And so what this item is over the years, and I didn't bring that chart, but we've talked about it many times, there's been so many budget reductions over the years, and it really has impacted the central office. And some of the positions that were cut over time there was a full-time receptionist, there was actually another part-time payroll clerk, there was a reprographics clerk, a food service director, there was a controller, and there was a supervisor of operations, a personnel director, and classified personnel specialist. Those are all reductions in the central office, in addition to all the site reductions that you've seen. And so we've talked about that the staff have really taken on a lot of responsibility, and people have just willingly done things and wear many hats. And looking at the staffing, we were talking about whether we could add an additional staff person, but then in order to be thoughtful about it, we thought it would be good to have an outside expert like School Services come in and really evaluate how we do our business services and our human resource services and our facilities and food service, and have them look at it before we go to the board and request adding a position. And then based on their study, they would be able to give us recommendations on how we're doing our work here and how it could be maybe possibly better done or realigned or reorganized.
Okay, so we do have a member of the public speak on this, Sue? You have 2 for tonight, huh?
I am very much in support of this project. I think it's a great thing for us to do, to look at and evaluate all of our business operations, and I agree, it hasn't been done in a long time. A lot of the positions that were referred to probably existed when we had a few more schools than we do now, but that doesn't do away with the need for the business office functions to oversee them. I am hopeful that as this project unfolds, there will be an opportunity to incorporate CSEA as much as possible. I don't know if there's going to be a steering committee for this project, for project oversight. I'm not sure how it's going to come together based on reading the proposal, but I would ask that consideration be given to incorporating a representative from CSEA in this process as much as possible, in as much as the job functions mentioned all fall within our unit. Thank you.
Comments or questions?
That seems very reasonable.
Well, step 2 of the organizational and efficiency review specifically says that that step will be primarily of interviews with district administrators and employees in the business and human resources department, business, child nutrition facilities, human resource, and a review of key documents. Interviews as appropriate will be held with school site personnel and other district office employees. So I think they have a real intention here of talking to people to find out exactly what's working and what's not working, and make sure that what they're doing, what's on paper as their job description, is in alignment with maybe what they're doing, or not, as the case may be, with all of the shifts. And it says the interviews will focus obtaining an understanding of the organizational business requirements, key positions, content, all of this. So it's not just the district office, but some of the administrative things that happen at the sites as well, and how that interaction happens with the district office.
It sounded like maybe what there was a request for was to maybe make sure that CSEA leadership was included in that list of interviewees, especially, and which seems reasonable, particularly because they have a longer, a very long-term view of, what that structure looked like before as well.
I think that's a reasonable request. Yeah. Okay. Eric?
I think this is critical to do. I think that we just can't go back to the way we did it. We have to get a fresh look at how we're doing things and to see how to best be efficient into the future. And I mean, you hate to spend the money on it, but it's really critical to get an outside look at how we do business and to see how to do more efficiently. And I think I mentioned when I rejoined this board last year, I was stunned at how many empty desks there are in this building compared to the last time I served as a trustee, and how much open space there is. And yet, as Sue pointed out, many of those tasks are all still have to get done, and a lot fewer people are working a lot harder, and we really owe it to them to get a professional look at how we can better manage the district. I think that's a critical component of our job here.
Well, and I'm hoping they'll bring some good ideas too. I mean, because when we needed a copy specialist because we had to generate paper, and now we've got other kinds of processes for information.
We're doing okay generating paper.
And this is also this is that we had the what was her name, Brianna? Was that the name of the lady who came?
Yes.
So we had just for the information of the public, that we had this session where Brianna came and told us how something like this might work, and I felt very comfortable with her and with school services as having the expertise necessary to do this, because I think that that's also something that we would want to make sure is that the people who were doing this had the expertise of how school districts work, to be the right people to be looking at our at our administrative functions and how they were working, what we should be doing.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve this contract with school services for our organizational and efficiency review.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushain?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we are on to another action item, CSBA Delegate Assembly election.
So,
Sue, any comment?
Pacifica School District is a member of the California School Boards Association, which is a collaborative group of school board members throughout the state. We are in sub-region 5B, and now it is time for the delegate assembly election. We get to vote, or you get to vote, for 3 of the candidates. I have In the packet, you were provided with the list of candidates. Some included resumes, etc. And so I've listed on our backup the delegates we may vote for. Suvrana Bhopal, who is from Belmont Redwood Shores Elementary School District. Gregory Danis, who's from Hillsborough City School District. Mark Friedman, who is an incumbent from Sequoia High School District. Alyssa McAvoy, who is an incumbent from Redwood City Elementary School District. Kalima Salahuddin, who is from Jefferson Union High School District, and Alan Sarver, Sequoia Union High School District. You may vote for 3 members.
So just to clarify, only the biographical sketches that followed, those are the only people that are running again this time. So, because there was a list of people, there was a list
Right.
of current serving, but some of those were not listed, so I'm assuming that that means that those people have chosen not to run again.
We're going to have a seat here if you don't stop.
Correct.
Okay.
So the ones listed on the board memo are the ones we may vote for.
Do we want to just take a process here and?
Mark Friedman is with San Mateo, not Sequoia High School
Ooh.
District.
Sorry.
Mark Friedman is, he's listed as being with Sequoia High School District, but he's actually with San Mateo High School.
Not in,
On the ballot, it lists him as.
Right, but up in the top there, when you read it out, it
Yeah.
said Sequoia
Yes,
is,
this
you have it.
Thank
it's okay down on page, well, I guess it's wrong in one place.
Yes,
It's
one
right
place,
there.
okay. All right, does anybody have a preference, or there's 2 ways to talk about this, either individuals, or if we feel like we want to talk about some criteria of who we want to represent us? You know, we've talked sometimes K-8 versus high school, so that there's a balance. We've talked in the past about, cross-county, making sure that we're seeing county-wide representation. In our county, we have wealthier districts, and, our districts have very different needs and funding levels. So I don't know if we have a choice. We can either talk about kind of what we think we want to see in terms of candidates, or we can just talk about who we think would be good, because I know quite a few of these people, and I think many of us do, so.
Well, do we want to just throw some names out and see if one can read it?
Okay, that's good, too.
Do you have a name you want to throw out?
Well, I'd like to nominate Greg Dennis, Kalima Salahuddin, and Alyssa McAvoy.
The thing that I like about those choices is it's so Sequoia and Hillsborough are both what used to be called basic aid, and I cannot remember what they call it now. What are we calling basic aid?
Yeah.
What?
Community funded.
Community funded districts? Okay, they're community. And again, not that they don't represent people or anything like, of course they do, but I think like having Alyssa and Kalima from Redwood and Jefferson, although I guess technically Jefferson is like right on the community bubble, so I don't even know what they are anymore, but I think in theory, it would be nice to have people on the CSBA board that at least come close to representing the financial situation that Pacifica School District is in. And those are the only, I think Redwood City and Jefferson Union are the only 2 that even come close to representing that. And of course, we know Greg, so that if we're going to choose somebody else, that seems like a good candidate.
Well, Sequoia has 2 of the I'm looking at the sub-region B, which is Redwood City, Sequoia, San Mateo Union High School District, Redwood City, San Bruno Park, and Sequoia Union. So that's pretty heavily, it's sort of slanted, and Alyssa's the Redwood City. That's a lot of high school districts. So who's not going to be on there?
Mark Friedman and
Alyssa
Chris.
and
Chris from Sequoia, and there's a new person running from
Okay.
Sequoia.
And there's, Alan Sarver. Okay.
So when those,
Kevin,
Alan Saunders High School
Kevin's,
District.
Right.
Kevin
he's-
stays on.
he's a-
So San Bruno's there.
Right.
Okay. So here's what it would look like. Let's see, Greg is Hillsborough, Alyssa's Redwood City, and Kalima's Jefferson Union High School, right? So it would be Redwood City, it would be 2 Redwood City people, it would be 1 Sequoia Union High School District person, San Bruno Park, and then Jefferson Union High School District and Hillsborough, which is elementary.
Well, it would only look that way if they win.
If they win,
That's
right.
what-
Well, but-
You know, we're making our choices.
We're making our
based on
choices.
Who we think.
Right. I mean,
Right.
obviously,
They're gonna
we're,
win.
that doesn't mean they're going to win, but if we're just looking, I mean, I'd like to have at least, for me, to have people who come from a lot of different districts in that assembly, as opposed to, having a couple people who are, I mean, we've got 2 people from one district and,
Anybody from PSD want to run for this next year? Because I mean, in all honesty, it's not a tremendously diverse group. Like, it's very, it's very South County and very high school and very community funded. I got to get used to that one. So, it's, and that's not, that's not the makeup of the state.
or
even
county,
Sarah
yeah,
So-
San Mateo County, yeah.
Too late for writing in Matt's name?
Actually, Eileen was a delegate there before she left the board,
Was
so she did
So,
get
so we
elected.
did, but-
So it is something to consider for next year.
So in light of that conversation, is there anybody who would like to propose alternates besides Greg Dennis, Alyssa McAvoy, and Kalima Salahuddin?
So when we're saying Alyssa, that if she won, that would be 2 people from from Redwood City?
Yes. But I think Alyssa's strong enough, that's a good thing.
The 3 are all passionate about it.
Did you want to propose, considering the only other alternative is the lady from Belmont?
Right,
Did you
which might give us a little more diversity at least.
What's the name again?
Savarna Gopal.
Replacing who?
Alyssa. And that would be 2 high school districts and 4 elementaries, which seems like a good balance. The Sequoia.
Yeah, my only hesitation with her is she is in her first year on the school board.
And Alyssa's, I think, is a pretty strong candidate. She's done a lot of good work.
And, Kalima is also fairly new on the school board, and she's really strong. So I'm not going to hold it against anybody to be, fairly new on the school board, because,
You have a very good
I wouldn't
point
think
there.
that, Kalima's too new. No, I mean, she's.
No.
Could we pull up her,
But she has a track record of
could we pull up her, Savarna Gopal's resume, or, sorry, Ray?
It's the first one.
So, yeah, just so we can get we can all kind of get a look at. Right here. Yeah, she was like the first one.
She has a pretty impressive resume.
So, I mean, it's often, I mean, as we were talking about, PTOs, like, being on the board is often the last thing that somebody does for their school district rather than the first, but.
Yeah, she's done a few things.
Yeah.
So do you want to try taking them one at a time? You can vote for, each one of you can get 3 votes, and then you can make a decision that way.
Do you want to do that? We'll each write three names and you'll
Making Sandy very happy.
I mean, we could take each candidate and see.
Just nominate.
Do you want to try, how about we try that? Do you think, Joan, it would work if we, if we nominate, somebody would nominate somebody and then we can vote on that candidate and, see if we, see if it gets down? Because it sounds like, there's 2 slots we could fill pretty easily, and then we can see how it goes on that. How it goes.
So do
Okay.
we want to fill the 2 slots and then just discuss the third?
Sure.
Okay, so
Everyone-
should we take a motion to nominate Greg Dennis and Kalima Salahuddin?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushain?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes. Okay, so now let's have a discussion about Alyssa McAvoy and Subrana Bhopal. I hope I'm saying that correctly. No discussion?
I don't know either of them, so I'll defer to those of you who do.
Well, I know Alyssa, and I know she's been, active in the schools. I think, it's hard to know.
And also, as a returning delegate, she brings some history with her. Continue working forward.
I agree with all that. I would say, I guess what I would say is that, number one, I think that school boards in general, and CSBA also in particular, tend to be not as representative of the school population that they serve as they really ought to be. And so I think that, making a move to increase the diversity in CSBA, I think would be helpful. And as we pointed out, she's no slouch. And then it would also, and there is also the issue of the Redwood City's already represented. I guess if we had the opportunity to choose which Redwood City person we chose, but we don't have that opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, I'm fine with going with the woman from Belmont. I think she does have a very strong, she certainly brings in some diversity to the board. I'm fine if we want to go with her.
And sometimes I think that new people ask the really blunt questions that make other people think sometimes, because they don't know enough, or they don't have that history. Not that that's a bad thing, they just, you know what I'm saying? But that's
Me? No, I don't know what you're saying.
that folks who are new are looking at it with a fresh lens, and sometimes ask the questions that people have sort of set aside because, it's how we've always done things.
Right. So, but on the other hand, that would be 3 new people.
And, of course, I'm thinking about a little bit of diversity, but when, let me take the other side of this argument, is Belmont Redwood Shores, they feed into Sequoia, along with Redwood City feeding into Sequoia. So that's really one, that feels like one block over there. So they're kind of, Alyssa and Suvana are kind of equals as far as that's.
In terms of the constituencies that they're.
Yeah, and so we're not represented. Let's see, I guess we've got San Bruno Park and Kalima, so we've got 2 representatives. Kind of the lightweight, the 3, the lightweight here would be the San Mateo. If we put our vote to Redwood City, San Mateo only would, if they win, 1 representative. So they're kind of the light ones, and that would be Greg. To take North off. So I don't know, they're kind of equal. Those 2 women end up being equal choices, I think.
Do you feel like maybe we could just take a vote and write our votes out? You could read them. If we have a 3-2 vote, then we're good. I mean, how would people feel about that? Just everybody write their choice for the 3rd delegate.
Or can we just,
and
we'll just pick one and then
Yeah, I think we just.
pick one and vote.
I think you can just call it out, we don't need to.
All right.
Okay.
Just move.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and nominate Subarnava Paul for the third seat.
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Oh,
So then, just to be clear, if you vote, if she wins, then we're done. If she doesn't, then we go back to the slate of other candidates. Just so everybody's clear what their vote's gonna do. Okay.
Trustee Faust?
Yes, I'll make the leap.
Trustee Rushanes?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
I think we're done here.
Oh, great, we don't have to express, we get off the hook?
Oh,
No,
come on.
no, doesn't work that way, we got a roll call vote.
Trustee Gould?
I'll go yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow, that was interesting, okay. Alrighty.
So the last, thank you very much. Thank you. So and I'll send that in for you. The next item is events to calendar, and at our last meeting, there was a discussion around, could we add other future agenda items to what do we call it, future events list? So we're up for discussion and action as to if you want to include other events. Historically, the future events were really those events that we absolutely wanted to have representatives from the trustees at these particular ones. That's what, it's my understanding that there was a decision not to include school activities, et cetera, for fear that we would then not include something and someone could feel like slighted. So we didn't want to do that. So the question was, where do you stop? So we just decided to do, it was my understanding the decision was to just do like back to school nights and open houses and promotions, because those were the ones we wanted to make sure people went to.
Eric?
I guess my feeling is we have a district calendar, on the website. There are other venues. We get the newsletters for events. So it's not a question of publicizing events. It's a question of ensuring board representation at events that, for example, a retirement dinner. I mean, other events that occur there, we want to make sure there is a board representative there. So it might not necessarily, that to me is the criteria, is some event, and all this is a list for us to make sure that it doesn't get lost, and that past boards have adopted the very practical philosophy that we can't all be at everything. Therefore, at least one of us goes and represents the board. Sometimes more people are able to come for the back to school nights or the open houses, but there's always one person who's designated to be the representative. And I just suggest as events come across our calendar that we think are appropriate to have board representation here, we make sure we put it on the list and that somebody's going, so we make sure we pay respects where we want to.
Matt, and then Richard.
I was going to kind of walk back what I think I had given the impression of last time, and say, Richard had said, well, then everything gets on the calendar, and I think he kind of has a really good, having had a month to think about it, whatever, I think he has a really good point, is that, then we do have this issue of then that events to calendar thing is going to get completely out of control. And I don't, as much as, as much as I would like to think that people would like board members to be at their events, I'm not really overestimating anyone's, deep desire to have my presence at pretty much anything. I don't, I'm sure, if somebody really felt like it would be really important for a board member to come to this, they could come and ask Wendy and say, listen, do you think you could make absolutely sure that a board member comes to this? And then she could make sure that happens. But like I said, I'm not under the impression that people are sort of really desperate for board presence. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure they enjoyed to see us waving the flag, but.
Well, I think if they want board members there, a lot of people email us directly or send out invitations to us to invite us to things specifically. And it's great. I love getting out to see all the events wherever I can, but I also hesitate in that sometimes I don't want the especially the principals, to feel like they have to drop what they're doing and show me around, or because that's an interruption to their day too. So I mean, as much as I try and attend as many things as I can, I try and just pop my head in and say, like, I'm on campus, you don't have to escort me around. Type thing, and I think that having too much on the calendar, like, where do you stop? But then my fear was then, like, what organizations do you stop with? What if you get some other organization, that all of a sudden wants to add something to your calendar, was my fear.
Andrea? Yeah.
So, I feel like the important things that we need to make sure that we are at, we should kind of define those things, but still kind of maybe encourage each other to to go to the kind of community events where we get a chance to talk with other people in the community besides just the schools about what's going on with the schools and what's going on with us, and making those connections. I think that, we kind of, people say, oh, there's so many things you got to do when you're a board member. Well, you got to go to Wednesday night meetings, and you need to be out there and talking to the community and being for the schools, back to school night, graduations. We should make a commitment to going to those, but I think we need to kind of encourage each other to be getting out there and being with our community.
Yep.
That's
Matt?
important.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry that you were done.
I go on.
Okay. Matt?
I thought I think that's a very good point, in that maybe this is sort of like, I don't know what the right framework for this discussion would be, but like, maybe we do need to have kind of a discussion about, like, where do board members want to go? And I think, like, at these events, like school, back to school nights, open house, and promotions, like, we're there just to sort of, like, wave and represent the district, because poor Wendy can't be everywhere all at once. But
She tries.
she sure does. She sure does. But and every now and again she should get a night off. But so.
Well, I can't support that.
I'm sorry, that's a discussion for another time. But I think Andrea has a good point in that there's the, like, go there just so that we were there, and then there are places where I think we should maybe be encouraged to go in order to talk about the schools, and maybe we don't do as much of that as we could, and I don't know what those places are, but maybe at some point, not now, we can have a discussion about what those places are. Should somebody go to the Mothers Club and talk? I know you go every year, like, but should a board member go? So like that couldn't hurt either. Like, should the board members visit with PTOs and staff? And like, I talked a little bit about Joan about this idea that I got from that CSBA thing about, like, adopting school, board members adopting schools and stuff. Just to, again, not to be like a passive presence, but to be an active presence.
I have my mistake.
I see that. No, I'm not.
No, I know.
I'm ignoring my suggestion.
No. It's just getting it into the hopper process. Is there more, Eric?
Yeah, I guess, I appreciate the concern, but I view this as a much narrower issue. To me, this is just our notes on where we go, and it's not open. I don't see it as being open to the public to submit things. I think it's just a matter of what Sandy and Wendy and we collectively, if somebody has an event coming up on the calendar and they say, hey, I think we should go to that, we throw it on here. I don't think it's a big deal. And I guess I would disagree with you. I think that it's not that it's not so much that our presence is appreciated, it is our absence is noted. And I do think it's important that we do show up. I do think it's important that we identify that we're representing the Board of Trustees at these events. And I think, as Andrea said, there are events that go beyond the traditional ones that we may think it's important to have official board representation there. I don't think we need a big discussion, and I think as they come along, somebody throws it out and say, well, there's a big event the city's having a big event, should we be there? Yes, no, maybe so, I can go, fine. It goes on the calendar, and then you agreed to go, and then your schedule changes, and you go, geez, I promised that we're going to go, Eric, can you go instead of me? That type of thing. I see this as just sort of a board calendar, so we don't miss things and not show up someplace that we wanted to. I didn't see it as a broader discussion about, we can have that discussion, but I didn't see it as that a bigger issue of where we go and how we go.
Matt?
So you want to have a discussion every board meeting
No.
about like what's, here's like 7
No, I
events,
just-
who's going, or you like?
No, I
oh,
just think
sorry, I
if
can't make
something
it.
comes up that you think
Okay.
should be a board, we should have representation, you just say, hey, I see this event
Okay.
coming, and not a big deal.
Okay.
So let me see if I understand.
Could I chime in?
Yeah.
As board president, I try and wait till the end, or, I don't know, maybe it's my privilege not to interrupt or whatever. Traditionally, in the past, the list has been kind of district-wide events, other than open house and back to school. It's district-wide in the sense that we get to every school, to make sure that we did have the representation, because our absence is noted. Certainly, the kinds of things that have, I went to a back-to-school night and I didn't talk to anybody, I just sort of popped around, and then we got nobody came to our school. I'm like, I was there, nobody noticed me. So I think it's important, I think we do some of that with Elna Flynn, the district, we used to have a district-wide music event, I don't know if that still exists. I know that PEF has also asked for some official board representation at particular events, for just to show that the board is 100% behind them, and they need that support and encouragement. They use us as tools to recruit for their board. Here, talk to this person, they want to be on the board, tell them how great it is, the PEF board, things like that. So I think that we should continue to maybe list those kind of big district-wide things on the events calendar. But also, we do need to have some venue, and I don't think it's up to staff to keep list of where we should go, but if there's a need, I think it should come up for discussion, because sometimes we do need to have somebody go to the city council meeting and wave hi or say good words or something.
So what we could do is, because we always go to future agenda items and have a discussion at the end of our meetings. At that time, what I'm sensing we might want to do is, if someone knows about an event that they have heard and was encouraged to go to, would chime in and say, I know this event is going on this date, I cannot attend, or I'm going to go, does anybody else want to go? And then we'll just list it as part of the minutes, and we can include it as, events board members will attend, or something like that. Is that kind of where we're going with this? I think that it would be difficult for us to try to decide, okay, which one do we put on or not put on? But if at the end, we talk about future events, if there are some events, this is kind of how I heard it, that you feel are important, be it community or a school or something that isn't listed, then that's the time you chime in and we all look at our calendars and we decide who goes or who doesn't, and we all know.
And if
So
nobody...
would that be listed under future events or
Well,
a separate category?
Yeah, we might want to just,
Yeah, which future events?
Why not just, my thinking for putting it just in future events is that's where you see the conflicts, that's where you see, those two things are at the same time, I can't go to both, I want to go to this, who can go to this? It's not, I don't see it as a big deal.
it might be a separate, just like, because it'll be changing every month, right? The stagnant ones are the open house, the back to school.
So then, in order for it to be added, it would have to come from someone on the board. It's not going to be like someone in the community is
Right.
going to email you and say, put this on your calendar.
Right,
Right,
right.
so the board,
I'm
so...
comfortable with that.
But you might bring it and say, hey, we've had a request.
Somebody
And we can say yes or no.
requested, is anyone available? You're right, right. Does that make sense?
And if no one's available to go, then no one's available to go.
Then I guess somebody with the initials WST, we have to.
Don't forget your designees.
I never forget that.
Could be even a special project for them to go.
They bailed me out many times, I'm telling you, so. So does that make sense like that, to do it that way? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So do we
I
have
think-
to take action on
Do
that?
we need, yeah.
I don't, do we
Okay.
need, it's listed as an action item. Do we have to,
Well, we discussed it.
direct the board to modify the future agenda items portion of the board agenda to reflect the desired activities under the events calendar? I'm not sure why we have to take official action.
You have the sense,
It doesn't have to.
you have the sense of the board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But is that,
no, I don't think that's,
that seems more kind of like direction.
it's direction. I think it's direction.
Okay.
Okay,
No action.
nothing legal.
Do we need to take a TV break? Does somebody need a TV break now?
Jason, do we need a TV break?
I can give it another 40 minutes.
Oh, God.
Oh, we're hoping to be out of here by then. Okay, all right.
We just got to the fun part of the meeting.
Okay, all right. So we are to the fun part of the meeting. Board bylaw policies. So as tradition, we will just read down. If anybody has comments, we will stop at that point. Board policy 311, deferred maintenance, we recommend to delete. Well, wait, we lost Matt.
Apparently.
He's on a TV break.
40 minutes was not
Well-
sufficient for him.
Okay, well, we'll go down, and then if he has anything we want to retract or go back to, we'll do that. Board Policy 3551, Food Service Operations Cafeteria Fund. AR 3551, Food Service Operations Cafeteria Fund. What? AR 3554, Other Food Sales.
Me.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm looking at, now it doesn't say what page, page 3, and we are talking about, in a school within grades K-8, participating, blah, 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 shall not permit the sale of foods by a student organization except when all the following conditions are met, blah, 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 blah. So sales by student organization, is that going to include when, does that include the parent organizations that sell the popcorn after school? And are they going to be held to the same thing, or is this just when kids?
Sounds more like kids, like Girl Scout cookies, things like that.
I would
Or like
say
if the,
student
you know, the
organization
fifth
might be
grade-
like.
12A
fifth
for
grade sells
attachment
pizza
one.
to like
Right.
raise money for their trip or whatever, that would be covered.
So are the parent groups bound to a similar set of rules?
Well, and if I might, I had a question before that, and that is, my understanding of that, or I'm looking at the AR, maybe that's wrong. Because the AR says requirements for schools not participating in the federal meal program. Do we participate in it?
Yes, we are participating in
Well, then that's, okay, then why do we have this?
Okay.
I got confused there as to why we even have it if we don't.
Are we talking about the
AR 3554.
Yeah,
That's,
at the very top of the page. First thing it says, requirements for schools not participating in federal meal program.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. One second, because we had the AR before. It's not that we're adding the AR. I know, it does say that.
could I make a
But then
suggestion?
have on page 2, after 1, 2, and then some footnotes, requirements for schools participating in federal meal program.
Yeah, there it is.
So maybe the top part is for schools that don't, and the bottom part,
So should we pull this and
how about if
do
we
a-
pull this and have staff take a
Yeah, I
little
can take
clear-
a look at it.
clear, okay, all right, so, Matt, did you have, it? We, since you stepped out, we went through the first three there. Did you have
Yeah,
anything?
no,
No?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Just,
Thank you.
all right. So we're going to pull AR 3554 to get more clarification. Okay. Board Policy 7214, General Obligation Bonds. Okay. AR 7214, General Obligation General Obligation Bonds. Okay. Board Policy 4111, 4211, 4311, Recruitment Selection.
Yeah, I had a
Okay, Eric?
It says here that it's not district practice and it needs to be negotiated. And I'm just confused so where do we go with it then? Because, and then it also specifies, or is my notes in the wrong place, about block grants. Are those still existing?
No. And what's not district practice is what we're recommending to delete out, where it says, with board approval, I'm going to get my glasses here. With board approval, the superintendent or designee may provide incentives, and that's not our district practice.
I think
So
that is.
that's the revision that we're requesting to make, is to take that out. And I made a sidebar comment to the board, just so you understand, that's why we're taking that out, making that revision.
Oh, I didn't understand that you were taking it out. Okay,
So is that fine?
thanks.
All right. Board Policy 4131, Staff Development.
In 522 pages of reading, some of my notes are less than clear as to what I actually was asking for back then. Oh, why are we deleting it? Yeah, that's why.
No, that's the AR that we're deleting. CSBA recommends to delete. Joan is on the board policy right now, correct?
No, we were on AR to delete, and then we were going to go to the board policy. So we can do them together if we need to. I mean, one's a board policy and one's the...
Right. So the board policy, we're recommending to approve the CSBA sample as is.
Right.
And then CSBA recommends to delete the AR.
So we'll have a policy about it, but we won't have specific criteria on how to.
And the reason is because of the Tier 3 categorical programs, which this AR is about, no longer exist due to LCFF.
Okay, that's,
We've changed them,
Right.
they've all changed the funds, so AR no longer
Right.
applies.
So we had an AR because there was a categorical staff development program that we
Right.
needed an AR to explain how we were going to apply that particular money. Now, the money no longer exists, so we don't need the AR, but we're still obviously going to have staff development, so we have a board, right?
And you're going to see that with the next two ARs as well. This one that we're discussing right now is for teachers, the next one's for classified, the next one's for administration.
Okay.
that's why I wrote down
But there's
tier
still
3
a,
suspension.
There's still Title II, so we don't need the AR for Title II funds?
No, the AR really was written for Tier 3 categorical programs, and they took all the different categorical programs and they dumped it into one thing. Now we don't have categorical programs. So Tier 2 is really a federal program, and so it could fall under the guise of the board policy.
So, as I understand that, that means that item, so I don't have to read this, item 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all, we're deleting the ARs and doing revisions to the board policies.
Correct.
Matt?
And Wendy, were these were the ones that I had said, could we maybe just rename them so that they were called like staff development, certificated staff development, classified staff development management? Because they're all called staff development, and so I think like if you were just sort of looking at these policies quickly, you'd be like, why are there three of them? And then if you wanted to find the right one, maybe that would help. It seems insignificant, but.
No, it's not, when you're trying to find the policy when somebody asks the question. So can we do that? Just tag it on to whatever group of people that we're addressing in the policy.
So my suggestion would be, we approve the agenda as is, so we may want to amend our approval of the agenda and make an amendment to include the labels for the board policy.
We're
Can
not
we just
approving
make-
this tonight, this is just first reading.
Well, because the agenda is now changing. Are we requesting to put board policy staff development certificate, or are you just suggesting at some point in time when we have to list it?
I don't know what makes more sense, but is there any reason you can't just, when you bring it back to us on consent, just change the title?
I see.
If we all agree that
Yeah,
the title should be
yeah,
changed, then
change,
just when it
yeah.
comes back on consent,
Consent
we
is-
say those things and.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, we're turning into pumpkin heads, I got it. Okay. So it'll be amended for final approval when we do consent.
Yeah.
Okay, board policy 5141.21, administering meds and monitoring health conditions. The AR that goes with that administration of medications. Board policy 5146, married pregnant parenting students, not applicable.
We hope.
And the AR as well. Okay, AR 5148, child care services for parenting students. I guess it's not, thank God, we don't need this. We're on to board policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities.
I had to ask what genetic information might be that would impact us, but I had that explained.
All right. AR 6145.2, athletic competition, not applicable. Board policy 5145.3, non-discrimination harassment. AR 5145.3, non-discrimination harassment.
Perhaps it was a time of day I read that, but I got a little bit lost as to how we're putting our policy into that.
So it said, I think the thing that the psychologists had come up with was the statement of gender identity genuinely asserted, I think was the way that they phrased it. And so when those, when it says, for instance, about, and I think this is in the AR, right, when it says about bathroom use, for instance, or, well, not bathroom use, because anybody can do that for any reason, but say locker rooms or whatever, it says something like a student may use whatever locker room is consistent with their gender identity which is genuinely asserted, and that's how it would differ, that's how it probably differs from the CSBA sample, which probably says the same thing that the model policy said that we changed. Was that clear?
Because AB 1266 is now in effect, CSBA now came out with a board policy, which we want to use that sample as is. But we, as the board knows, we approved Pacifica School District board policy in light of preparing for AB 1266. There was a lot of thought and preparation put in that, and because the board approved it, we wanted to embed that language, and that language describes what we do as a practice in our district, and we wanted to embed our current board policy language into the AR.
That's Jim and Wendy.
So that's all you did was embed it?
Exactly. We lifted from our current board policy for that and put it into this AR.
So the board policy is the CSBA policy, and the AR includes the language from our previous board policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Take it and pass it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray. That's, like I said, it was late when I was, I just want to make sure I could understand what we'd already approved. So it's no longer, our board policy is no longer what we said, it's now in the administrative.
It's now embedded in the AR.
Correct. Thank you.
So move to the easier hard part, future agenda items.
So, and then here.
Yeah, I'll sign, I won't leave till
We have to go into closed session, everybody.
yeah.
So, the only thing that I would like you to consider adding is We do have now the Family Resource Center. It's from San Mateo County Health Services, and it has, the program will be starting very shortly up at Sunset Ridge. And so I thought it'd be nice to have a presentation from the Human Services Department to discuss with you a little bit about what the Family Resource Center is and what will happen within our community and at the school. So I requested if they could do like a 5 to 10 minute presentation and you can ask questions. April 9th appears to be kind of a nice meeting. Unfortunately, Natasha available, but can send someone else. There is a supervisor named Donovan who might be a person who could do the presentation as well. The other dates, May 7th, we do kind of a cake and punch thing for our retiring teachers and classified staff. And then we could do it on June 4th, if you'd like.
Well, we've already got a presentation for June 4th.
Right.
So we can have...
It's up to you.
How about if we stick it on for April 9th?
Okay.
And then, that way if we have anything come up for May 7th.
Then
Yeah, we, hopefully by then we'll have a new director of Pacifica School Volunteers.
Oh, good.
So at some point, we'd like to bring that person, I think, just so that she can, or he, we're interviewing on Saturday. So get them, that person may want to wait till the fall or something, when they know a little bit more as well. But do we have any other things, Sandy, that we traditionally do with presentations? Do you know? I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It just seemed like in the old days, we used to have kind of a regular roster of people that would come on a regular basis, but like annually.
Yeah, like the jump for
Heart
heart
and stuff like that, yeah. Okay.
So we've been included.
I think we've pretty much been including the people that generally come.
So, any events, future events?
Can I back up for future agenda? What I don't see is, we discussed on water conservation, and...
As a presentation?
Right, and they had offered to make one, and we talked about just...
She hasn't contacted me, so when would you like to?
Who was the one, who was?
The water district.
Yeah,
Oh, the water district, I'm sorry.
We talked about, Carolyn is the general manager. We talked about doing our part in water conservation at a presentation. We could add our voices and our facilities, which use an awful lot of water, as to what we might do to reduce our usage. So the director said they have a presentation they can make to us, and they have resources to provide to us, and I think it would just be good to air that to our staff and to us.
Well, how about we do this then? Why don't we'll put the April 9th and the May 7th out for the resource center or the water people, and let them figure out what works for their calendars?
The water people.
Does that sound okay?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, so water
and then the family resource. I just kind of like to keep presentations to one, since we have business, except for when they give us money, they can come anytime they like. Anybody who gives us money comes anytime they like. Okay, anything else? All right, so we are going to adjourn at 9:25 and go into...
Yeah, no future events that you want to talk about?
Closed session? Okay. All right, so we're back to closed session.